And we're back. This is Elliot and Jose coming to you from Dreamland Comics in Schaumburg, Illinois. Thank you for joining us here on CCW TV. Okay, so yeah, you know, I feel bad for picking on Brian Bendis in the Twitterverse because it just so happened that after those two tweets that I polled about, he tweeted that he had ripped his cornea and he couldn't see. Which, if you're a writer, that's not good.
There is a guy.
Oh no.
Thank you.
But Brian, I hope you get better. I mean that sincerely. Another book outside of Dark Avengers, which we've been, kind of like avoiding or ripping when we could, but actually I enjoyed. Another book that Jose asked that I read when we came in was Flash Rebirth. And just like when you... Number 5. Just like I objected to reading Dark Avengers. Now, you asked me to read Dark Avengers because you thought we should just talk about the book.
Right.
You wanted me to read Flash Rebirth number 5 because you felt it was way better. And like there was a sudden improvement in the book after we weren't really caring for the series up to this point. And I remember the first 2 issues of Flash Rebirth, I had a really hard time reading them.
Terrible.
I was having a hard time getting through. There was a hell of a lot of exposition and talking and blah, blah, blah. And it just bored me to tears. But now we get into issue 5. Mind you, again, I have not been reading this book. I have not been reading the Flash Rebirth series.
I have.
I picked this up cold, and what do you know? It was pretty good. It was really good.
And the first thing that came to my mind is that I remember when Flash Rebirth number 1 came out. It was roughly around the same time that Agent Orange was coming out from Green Lantern, and that's back when I was poo-pooing Jeff Johns because he was losing me at Green Lantern, and then I read Flash Rebirth number 1. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, he's so much better than this, and he since has gotten back into my good graces with Blackest Night and with Adventure Comics and the other stuff that he's doing. And then with this, something must have been going on. Because I bet you, like, this issue and the Agent Orange were probably written around the same time. He just must have, I don't know what was going on. There's a bad batch of John's scripts. And this is such a marked improvement over the first issue. I can't even believe it. And, yeah, Ethan Van Sciver's still drawing it. It's not nearly as annoying.
Van Sciver, he really dialed it down
a bit.
He really pulled it back a bit.
I'm still
I think that helped the artwork.
It did. I'm still no fan of his, but yeah, that's exactly what it was. It didn't detract from the story. It was actually, I can actually get through the book.
Yes. His layouts were way easier to follow here. There wasn't so many of that fancy lightning. I mean, there are lightning bolts.
Oh, there are lightning bolts all over the place.
But it wasn't to the degree of the first couple issues.
It's just ridiculous.
And this was really more straightforward storytelling. So, yeah. Again, now I haven't picked up the book. I haven't been reading, so I had no idea what I was going to jump into when I read this. But the Barry Allen and the Flashes are fighting the Reverse Flash. Is he the Reverse Flash or Professor Zoom? Professor Zoom, the Reverse Flash.
I believe so.
Yeah. Who's actually one of the best Flash villains out there. And is he still the dark side of Barry Allen as established by Mark Waid during his last Flash run?
No, I don't believe so. I think he's like the Professor Zoom from the future who just goes through time.
Goes through time. Okay. Again, a really cool character. So, Professor Zoom, really a badass character. And you get to see, he's like, all the Flashes have to take him on. And you see all the different ways that the Flash powers can be used. When you can run that fast, you can move that fast. There are just really so many cool things. If you're a student of physics, you know that there are a lot of cool things that you can do with those powers. And one of the things I really liked was how Jeff Johns also drew in some of the Grant Morrison Flash run. When Grant Morrison wrote, there was that one period when Mark Waid and Grant Morrison had switched between Flash and JLA.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Waid took over JLA and Grant Morrison took over the Flash. And Grant Morrison got to do all this really cool, freaky, super science stuff with Wally West as the Flash. And he actually pulls in some of that. One of my favorite things that Grant Morrison came up with in his run on the Flash was the uniform made out of the Speed Force. Mm-hmm. And when he brings that in, I thought that was really cool. That was really cool.
See, that's one of the things that I liked that made me like this issue. A couple other things is I just like the fact that Wally West is in this book because I think Wally West should still be the Flash. Right. What also helps this book is that Barry Allen is kind of done bitching and moaning about how much he doesn't want to be alive. Right. He actually comes to the conclusion that he is alive, and now he's just going to do the best that he can with what he has.
Right.
You know, no more bitching. That was my number one problem, is like pissing and moaning about being alive.
But you also see, though, why him being alive is an issue. That when you are the Flash, when you have these powers, the very nature of them push you into a life of solitude, which can be very difficult for him. And then we get into the whole thing about Iris Allen.
Right.
And how Iris Allen actually has always been the one thing that has kept Barry Allen grounded. Someone like the Flash could easily be one of those who loses his sense of humanity and sense of self, but Iris is the one that keeps him grounded. And I don't want to spoil the ending here. There's a really cool ending as to what Professor Zoom is planning on doing to Barry Allen and what he actually has been doing to Barry Allen his entire life. Mm-hmm. It's one of those really obvious things that you go, wow, if you're a supervillain that can go back through time, why haven't more supervillains done that? Mm-hmm. Makes me think about Kang the Conqueror, in the Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
And it also shows how Jeff Johns, those little bits that Jeff Johns drops in when he retcons things, with in his books. Mm-hmm. I will say, though, he very expertly folds in a whole bunch of this stuff from, again, other Flash writers' runs on the book, and he even starts setting up the new JSA book.
Yeah, getting back to a couple other things that really worked for me in this issue is, Wally Watts is in here. They have new costumes, which is pretty cool because using the Speed Force. I was always a huge Jessie Quick fan.
Yes.
And when she didn't have super speed anymore and just became Liberty Bell, I didn't really like that.
Right.
But it looks like they're drawing her back into the Flash family book, the Flash family, the books here. And then there's a new Impulse that gets introduced in here, and it's not Bart Allen because Bart Allen is Kid Flash.
Kid Flash, right?
So there's a new Impulse, and I like that.
Yeah,
it's just in Max Mercury it's just all these characters that I really liked, and new incarnations of the characters that I grew up reading DC with, and it's all starting to come together and it's all working now. I hope they don't get killed in the next issue.
No.
I mean, this is starting to feel like the old Flash that I used to like. But it took forever to get there, though.
It did. It did take a while. It's nice to finally start seeing some payoff. And it's a thing where Jeff Johns is he's really obviously setting up more stuff. He's using Flash Rebirth to set up other books. He's using it to set up, like I said, JSA. He makes a bit here about how the new Impulse and Jessie Quick, they are part of the next generation. Mm-hmm. So, which is an ongoing theme in the DC books, is that you always have a next generation of hero.
Yeah, that Jessie Quick costume is terrible, by the way.
Well, that's a classic Jessie Quick costume. That's like a modification on the old one from the Johnny Quick from the JSA.
I understand that. Yeah. I don't like it, though, because it doesn't really fit in with everybody else's.
Right.
Because there's kind of a theme. I mean, the Impulse has the old Impulse costume, pretty much. There's a little bit of redesign.
Well, Max Mercury still has the friggin' Iron Fist.
But that's how he's been drawn, though. That's how he was drawn when he got killed, though. But,
right, and I'm just saying.
Jessie Quick, I liked her costume back when she was just like when she was in the John's run. They redesigned her costume, was kind of more like the Flash.
Well, I think because she's going to be going into the new JSA All-Star team, so
I guess that would probably fit in there.
Drawing the line to the old World War II team.
That's true. So, yeah, that's a good point.
So yeah, this was it, but it was a good read. It was a good read. It was a fun read. It was a lot of action and drama, and John's really doing what he does best, which is give you good character pieces. And
the ending that they set up, I'm actually really interested to see how they're gonna finish it.
Yes,
There's only one more issue
the big
left,
payoff,
so.
yeah, which is really cool. But you're right; it took a long time to get here, and I don't know if you really
Way
needed
too long.
6 issues to do that. I mean, you probably could
No,
have
it
done
should have been one issue and then this one. That would have worked fine for me.
So, but anyway, Flash Rebirth, and I even love this cover too.
Well, it's an homage to the old.
Yeah, to the first, but I mean, it's
To
still
that one.
it makes a lot of sense in regards to how the story works.
Right.
So yeah, so we enjoyed it. When we come back, we're gonna get out of the Marvel and DC universe and go into the independents. We hope you join us.